On this episode of Tom Talks, we have a very special guest, McLaren CEO, racer, all-round nice guy, and my friend, Zak Brown. Now, Zak has never visited the showroom before. He's threatened on many occasions to visit us, but never made the trip up from Woking. And we're going to chat about Zak's passion for cars, where it all started, what his favorite cars are in his collection, what he doesn't like so much. And I'm sure when he arrives and he walks around the showroom, our showroom at the moment, we have never had such incredible cars under the roof at any one time. And I'm sure he's going to be really excited, and I hope you enjoy it. What's your favourites?
The Nicky.
Yeah. Have you got a Nicky?
I've got a Nicky.
What's your Nicky, Dan?
85.
Oh, McLaren Nicky.
Yeah, 85 last win.
Oh, really?
85 last win. I mean, the collection's amazing.
Yeah, the Rint I think is really special.
The Rint is, I've never seen a Rint.
And the goggles with it.
Yeah, that's.
But this helmet here, Bruno Giacomelli, when we were looking for Snell numbers, we found an Italian prayer card.
Wow.
That's, a prayer card about keeping somebody safe.
Wow, that's cool.
It actually made me tingle when I got it, because I was like, I wonder who put that in there. Wow. Did he put it in there? Or did his wife put it in there?
Yeah.
Okay, you are a historian on F1, yeah?
Yep.
Slim Borgard.
Who?
Unbelievable, right? This guy is a legend.
What's his name?
Slim Borgard.
Never heard of him.
Yeah? The ABBA drummer.
Oh, yeah.
And was a Formula One driver.
Oh, really?
I can't believe he's not a bigger legend.
No, I'd never heard of him.
He was the drummer out of ABBA.
Yeah.
And then decided to be a Formula One driver and was a Formula One driver. I'd never heard of him.
I'd never heard of him.
Graham Hill.
Yeah, Graham Hill, that's amazing.
Le Mans winning helmet. And also the helmet when at his funeral, the helmet that they put on his coffin. They look good like this, don't they?
Yeah, they look really good. All my helmets are just sitting on a counter. They actually look nice.
And we just didn't have enough room, so it became like, where are we going to put the helmets?
Yeah,
and we just put them here.
So
but then we actually went,
actually they look quite nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, cars. Where do we start? This is
this one.
That's the Lauda 75 championship winner.
My biggest regret, selling my 74 Lauda car.
That was chassis 15. I ended up with it.
Yeah, you know when you sell something and then you regret it 5 years later?
Is that your biggest regret?
Selling that car, yeah. Yeah.
Why? Because it was Lauda or because...
Lauda, Ferrari, and I'll never get it back.
You actually definitely won't with the guy who owns it now.
Yeah.
We sold it to an Austrian, and
It ain't going anywhere.
That's his car.
And I sold it because I didn't fit in it well and comfortably. And that was back when I didn't want to have any car that if I couldn't drive it, I didn't want it.
You said that the same, oh no, the March, did you?
March, same. Gear linkage was, and I regret that one. Not as much as the Lauda, but your Jackie Stewart car is amazing.
Thing is about Lauda as well, the cars, when you sold the Lauda car, it's easy to regret that now in hindsight just because of the value. You can't help it.
Like it's even worth 5 times what I sold it for.
You're also good.
It's worth 5 times what I sold it for, and I sold it for twice what I paid for it.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
If we all had a time machine.
Exactly.
15C. So what Williams do you have?
I have 1980 FW07B that Jones won 3 races in, first championship. And then I have Mansell's 87 FW11B, which he won 4 or 5 races
That's
in.
pretty cool though, isn't it?
That car's mega.
And what's that like to drive?
Haven't driven it yet, but it's all done now, ready to go. I'll probably drive it later this year.
Yeah. Great livery.
Great livery.
Also Mansell as well. He was a...
And that particular chassis is the one he won the British Grand Prix in, the famous pass on PK. It's that car. So to me, and I'm a big Nigel Mansell fan. I also have his 93 Indy car that he won the championship in.
Yeah. You got that last year, didn't you?
Got that last year. Yeah. So I'm a big Nigel. My favorite guys, Senna, Andretti, Hakkinen, Mansell, Fittipaldi.
They're your 5 guys.
Those are my 5 guys.
Really?
Yeah. Who are your 5?
Who are my 5? Tell me first of all, what's the love then for Mansell? Why do you like Mansell so much?
I liked, well, he was awesome to watch.
Yeah.
So Senna was always my guy, but Mansell close behind. I like the guys that won in IndyCar and Formula One.
Which is, how many is there?
Emo.
Yeah.
Mansell.
Yeah. Hill. Graham.
500, but not, I don't think he ever won the championship. Villeneuve won both championships, but that was kind of a little bit later on. Mario. So I like, so Mario, Emo, and Nigel were those guys that did both.
Yeah.
And then Mika and Senna, because they were just pure Formula One and pure McLaren.
Yeah, I think Senna is got to be everybody's pin-up guy.
I think so.
Because he just such a handsome man and had so much charisma and just an amazing driver, isn't he? And I think when you look at that Donington race or the race in Brazil, do you remember when he couldn't shift? Couldn't shift.
Yeah. The thing drove around in 6th gear.
Yeah, and then they get out, they complain these days sometimes,
about anything.
Yeah. So I think Senna's anybody's pin-up.
These cars are cool.
This car came second to Senna at Donington, second to Senna in Monaco in 93, won 3 races, came second 4 times, and came third 3 times, all in Hill's first year with Williams.
Awesome car.
And then this car was on pole in Monaco, 2 wins with Hill, also came second.
That is 17?
This is 17.
Yeah.
So 15 and 17.
This was both of them are iconic liveries.
I think the Sega is.
The Mansell, that whole, because that livery really started in 85?
86, was it?
86?
No, it might have been 85, yeah.
With what? PK Rosberg then?
Yeah.
And then this survived until they went.
93 was the last
93,
year. And then it went 94.
And that kind of ran until 96, 7? Because then they went to the Winfield.
Yeah, that was 90, definitely 97, and I think 98
is maybe when they shifted over to Winfield. That was Frentzen, and then Zanardi, I think, had just...
And were you involved in any of those sponsorships with Williams back then?
Not. My first deal I ever did with Williams was the Lenovo sponsorship, which was Rosberg and Ralph Schumacher.
Yeah, and that was early 2000s.
That would have been 2005.
Yeah. Because I think what a lot of people don't realise, because obviously you're so high profile today in F1, and everyone knows you as Mr. McLaren and CEO of McLaren. But long before that, for like 2 decades before that, you were going in and out of each.
I've done deals with Williams.
Yeah.
I've done deals with Ferrari.
Yeah.
Done deals with Red Bull, of course, McLaren, Lotus at the time.
And would I be right in saying you would have been the main guy to bring sponsorship into F1 then?
Yeah. In fact, there's still some sponsors on Toto's Mercedes that I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You still get the royalties?
I wish I did. But every time I see the logo, it's like, I need to take that one back.
Yeah. What do you think of this?
Awesome. Wow.
So,
what's the history on this?
So, 250 Tour de France Zagato bodied. Only 5 of them was ever built. Of the 5 that was ever built, only 3 of them had the double bubble roof.
Yeah.
And of the 3 that had the double bubble roof, only 1 had covered headlamps. But this car came second in class in the last ever Mille Miglia, 6th overall. Only got beat by Works cars, by the 315S, the 335S, by a Maserati 300S, and by the Olivier Jean de Bienne Works entered 250 14 Louver. So as a privateer car, it basically won that year, and it also won the 57 Italian GT Championship.
Amazing.
All matching numbers.
Painting's come a little bit on since those days.
Yeah, but it's nice to see.
It's cool.
Like
no,
that.
it's
That's
how it was.
Been.
Yeah, 100%.
And then Le Mans, obviously you just had your success at Le Mans. Was that your first win at Le Mans? Second.
We won in 2020. Awesome. There is no race cooler than Le Mans.
Well,
other than this car racing.
Le Mans winner. So this is the only surviving Works Le Mans winning Jaguar. This was the car that invented disc brakes.
Can you imagine doing 24 hours in this
24.
thing?
I thought about it.
Two drivers?
Two drivers, which was Duncan Hamilton
Oh, was it?
and Tony Rolt. So basically, two car dealers, really. Well, one and a half car dealers, and
Oh, the spark plugs on the side.
spares. And the car still today has its original body, chassis, engine, gearbox. This car is a national treasure. In the UK, this should never be allowed to leave the UK.
It's amazing. Dark British racing green?
Yep, which all original colour. We had the car restored back to its it is as raced at Le Mans specification. But the brake calipers that are on the car are numbered 2. So still the original calipers and the second set of calipers that was ever produced in the world. This car changed. This car made Ferrari. It made everybody.
Who was the competition when it was racing?
Ferrari. Really, in '53, Ferrari was the big competition. But you still had. It was after the war, so you had Mercedes-Benz, Ferrari. Jaguar had such a poor run in '52 after winning it in '51, and that was like their comeback.
Aston Martin Row?
Yes, well, yep. So Works DB3S, Peter Collins. So that's the car that got Peter Collins his drive for Ferrari. So that's Mille history, Le Mans history, and then Peter Collins raced it as a Works car for Aston, and then he bought it off of Aston and raced it as a privateer car.
Amazing.
This was the Essex Racing Stable. Do you like Aston Martins?
Love Astons. I've got a DB6 Volante.
Yeah, and do you use it much?
I do use it. It's pretty reliable.
And that's a Mark 1?
Correct. I love it.
Manual?
Manual. Right-hand drive.
What colour?
British racing green. Like a darker, like near that. So well, actually, I don't even know what to do. Like British racing green. I would say, is that British racing green? That British racing green? That British.
That's British racing green.
That's
so
British
you
racing
wouldn't
green.
really in an Aston Martin. The colour of the green it probably was Goodwood green. I would say.
It's near. It's lighter than that, but not as light as that.
Yeah. That car came second to. Actually, we've got a lot of race cars here at the moment. That car came second to Moss at Goodwood in '60. So when Moss won in, remember the short wheelbase with number 7.
Yeah.
The blue short wheelbase, Roy Salvadori came second in that car and should have won the race actually. And then
this is pretty awesome. Alfa
8C. That now nobody knows about this car yet. You are the first person to see it. This is if you could use art analogy in the car world, this is your Rembrandt. So this is a 2.9 8C, only 7 open cards.
These types used to race at Le Mans.
These types, an 8C, 2.3 and 2.9 used to race at Le Mans, but a 2.9 is basically deemed as the ultimate pre-war car. So this was the ultimate evolution of the 8C, bought out the 2.3 litre engine. It went to 2.6 for the Monza and then to 2.9 for these cars. They had some which were they're known as the Mille Miglia cars, which had the more cycle fender wings. And they won the Mille Miglia. They went to Le Mans. These cars won everything.
Yeah.
Like this, an Alfa 8C was the greatest car in the world for 25 years. So from the early 30s until the mid to late 50s, there was no car at all, not any new car that came out that was as good as an Alfa 8C. And then are you into pre-war cars?
I've got one or two. No, I've got one, a Bentley 4.25.
And do you like it?
I actually do like it. It was Robert Wagner's car.
So that's a Derby.
Correct.
Yeah?
Correct. And I always wanted just in my collection one car that looked like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about
When was the last
them.
time you drove it?
I drove that 6 months ago.
Yeah?
I'll drive it twice a year.
Reliable?
Believe it or not, it's actually pretty reliable.
Because there's nothing really that can go that wrong with them, and there's nothing that drains the battery. There's so many modern cars these days.
Yeah.
You go to it, and it's like I only started it last week, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, and it's actually pretty easy to drive. I mean, you look a bit foolish out on the road.
Well, actually, that 4.5 litre Bentley of every car that I've got.
Do you drive them?
Yeah, I drove this last week, and this one's for sale. That one's not for sale. But my youngest son, William, that's his favourite car. So if you could collect him in a Bugatti Chiron, a LaFerrari, or the Bentley, he calls it.
Yeah.
He'd take the Bentley every time. But I think it's the experience of when you sit in the back,
they're
you know,
fun,
you feel so exposed and you've got all the wind hitting you. For a child, it feels like you're on a roller coaster.
Yeah. These are undervalued.
Dino, well, a Dino is the most cash liquid classic car on the planet.
I think they're undervalued.
Have you got a Dino?
I don't. I've always wanted one because I think they look, the flares are cool, relatively inexpensive compared to what it should be worth. But I think they're going up in value.
Every year, they're very stable because they're so cash liquid. There was enough of them built. Sometimes you can have a car that's too rare. You know, you can get a car like this, for example, and we really have to sit down with somebody and explain to them why it's worth this price. Because there's 7 of them in the world and only 3 of them really exist today. Where on a Dino, you see so many traded so much, so many auctions, so many with the dealers, that people just know how much they are. Like it's 450,000, and it's, you know, whether you can negotiate and get 10,000 knocked off. It is what it is. You don't. There's no uncertainty. A buyer doesn't think, oh shit, should it be? I probably can't say it.
Now this is a monster.
Recently sold. That's our 3rd GTO that we've sold in the last 5 years.
That is stunning.
Yeah.
You still think that's the biggest car? Outside of something obscure? It's like the one everyone talks about is
the GTO.
The GTO.
How
many did they make?
36.
36.
Have you ever driven a GTO?
No.
So a GTO to drive, I think it's the most beautiful car in the world? No, I don't.
Well, I think it's close.
Do you think that's more beautiful than that?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. To me, it's a bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a 10 and a 9.9.
Yeah. I think it's a really good looking car, but for me, a GTO doesn't come alive until you drive it. And then when you drive a GTO, you absolutely get what it's all about. And you go, well, if it was twice the price of a short wheelbase, like everybody would just mortgage their house and buy this. So it has to be so much more because it is unbelievable.
These are now 60, 70, 80?
Yeah. Depending on
and the history and
But that car was...
How many good GTOs are left?
Dozen. A dozen cars that I would deem as good cars. You know, there's some cars out there that not only don't have their original engine, but you know, I mean, they have a new type of engine in it, or a new body and a new chassis. If you're buying a car, for me, if you've got 40 million to spend on a car, you've got 70 and you can buy a great one. But we need to get you to drive one. So how many cars have you now got in the collection?
I'm now 50.
50 cars?
50 cars? Yeah, I got a car addiction problem. Mostly are race cars. 35 of them race cars, 15 road cars. It's a combination of, it's all the stuff I grew up watching race. So I see the hill cars, the louder cars, and it just makes me feel like I'm 8 years old again or 12 years old again. So it's my collecting criteria is the car had to have won a race in period. I don't care.
I'm the same.
I don't care what driver drove it, what team. If
it's not a Grand Prix winner, I don't buy them.
I'm not interested. So about a dozen Formula One cars.
Which limits the cars, by the way, because if you say I want a Grand Prix winning car, and then say take away all of the Mercedes-Benz, because none of them sold, and then you go, I want a Grand Prix winning car, there isn't that many chassis. No. You know, you look at Jackie Stewart, for example, one of his cars he won 6 races in, another car he won 4 races in.
And then he's got his other one, so you've got the other one.
So like there isn't, there's 3 or 4 cars in the world. Lauda won a load of races, but he won 6 races in that one car.
That car's amazing.
He won 2 races in your old car.
First 2.
Yeah, so there isn't many cars to go.
I actually had his trophy and I asked him about it. Because I was like, how did you give up your first trophy? And he remembered it like it was yesterday. He gave it to a guy at a petrol station.
So I've got
told me the story.
So I've got a better one than that. I sat with him in the British Grand Prix. I think it was over that car. So I had just bought that car from America. You sold it to a guy in America. I just bought it from him, and I was with Bernie, and I said to Bernie, do you know what? I've just bought a car that Nicky should buy. And he said, oh, you should offer it to him. So he said, but he won't buy it. And I said, well, he should, because surely to God, that means something to him. It was his car that he won his first 2 races in.
Yeah.
And I offered it to him, and he said, why would I be interested in that? And I said, because does it not mean anything to you? He said, you should offer it to my son. He said, every trophy I used to get, when I would walk out of a circuit,
give it away.
He said, give the trophy away.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Unbelievable, isn't it? And then these days,
everyone's collecting everything.
Yeah.
You can't get anything from these guys.
Miura?
Love it.
Have you?
I've driven Miuras, yeah.
You don't own a Miura?
I don't own a Miura.
We got some other cool stuff over here.
Porsche section. I got a Carrera GT, love it.
Yeah, what a car.
Awesome car.
Best engine ever, maybe.
So fast. And it sounds amazing.
But that V10 engine.
Apparently the V10 was going to go into an F1 car. Was their original plan.
Yeah, it was Formula One derived engine. V10, naturally aspirated, sounds unbelievable.
And the car is light.
You can't use your car at the moment.
No, because of the recall on the suspension. I think it'll be done at the end of the year.
It's been a nightmare, really.
Yeah, it's not cool.
What was your first, we've been walking around here, we've been concentrating on so many of the cars, I forgot all the questions I wanted to ask you, but so what was the first car that you ever bought?
My first car I ever bought, well, my very first car I drove was a Volkswagen Jetta, my dad's, but that's nothing fancy or collectible. I think my first ever race car was I had an Eddie Cheever's Indy 500 winner, which I went on to sell because I'm an Indy 500 fan. But then I've refined, and you'll see this with all the collectors. I went from I want everything to being very disciplined, refined. So at one point I had 30 road cars, but you never drove them. So you get more pleasure after looking at them.
Yeah. And if you're going to look at them, look at a race car that you can say this car
drove. I remember I was at that race because I've got cars.
It made history.
Race, it made history. That's what I like about race cars is everyone's unique. Yeah. So I've got my Formula One cars, and they're all race winners and all driven by world champions. Yeah. Not necessarily world champions in that particular year, but I've got 3 world champion cars: Mario Andretti's '78 JPS, Alan Jones Williams first championship, and Senna's '91 Monaco winner. Schumacher, Ferrari, Lewis's last Grand Prix win at McLaren, and the first U.S. Grand Prix. Cool. Yeah, it's really cool because that particular chassis won the U.S. Grand Prix, 2012. Obviously, being American, I was there. Yeah. I actually had some involvement.
So that's
in sponsorship.
That's a 27.
Yeah. And then he won Monza. So actually, it was the other way around. I think it was Monza first, and then the U.S. Grand Prix. Mika Häkkinen's 2001 British Grand Prix winner, which I'll drive at the British Grand Prix this year in the demo run, which is awesome. Huge Mika fan.
I love as you're there one of the busiest weeks of the year as the CEO of McLaren, and like, oh, where's Zach? Where's Zach? He's racing at the minute. He's around the track.
Just sneak out the back door. And then, so I'm going to drive that. And then at the Italian Grand Prix, I'm going to drive the Lewis car, which is fun. And then I have a bunch
You're going to be working at any of the Grand Prix? Or?
Yeah. Fit it in around my driving schedule. And then a bunch of Indy cars, because I love Indy cars. So Alan Jr., Michael Andretti.
What's the ultimate Indy car? I don't know much about Indy cars.
For me, it's either my Johnny Rutherford 1974 Indy 500 winner, because it was McLaren. Yeah. Johnny Rutherford, I grew up. But then outside of that one, it would be the Emerson Fittipaldi 1989. He won the championship. He won the 500, and it was a very famous race where he and Al Jr. were battling it out, and they touched 2 laps to go, and Al Jr. ended up in the wall. Emo won, and I'm an Emo fan. And it was funny, Roger Penske called, because all the guys know I'm bugging him for cars. Like I got my Mansell car directly from Williams. I got my Häkkinen car from Ron. So I bug all these guys. So Roger calls me. And he's like, I've got this car and I just want to get some advice from you. I'm thinking about selling it, but I'm not sure if I want to put it in an auction. It's kind of going on and on. I'm like, what car are you talking about? I've got, because it was between, it was a Penske chassis, but it was run by a different team. They sold chassis to at the time, so I don't really kind of need it. Roger, what car? He's like, it's Emerson Fittipaldi's 1989 winner. And I was like, All right, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm pretty sure the whole call was a setup.
Yeah.
He was calling for some advice. He knew exactly what he was doing.
He's a good operator.
He's an awesome operator.
He's
one of the best.
He's an amazing guy.
Maybe the best. I mean, from an overall, if you look at someone who started racing,
in the 60s,
built a race team, built a big, huge business off the back of his race team, and then if you think about what he does today, he uses his race team to build his business, and he uses his business to build his race team. So he's like the original Leverage Motorsports to build your business. So he's first class, and he's raced and everything. I hope he wins Le Mans, because it's like, he's won everything else. He's won in F1, he's won in IndyCar. He's 84, 85 years old, and he's up all 24 hours.
He works very hard.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's a great operator.
Unbelievable. I've been fortunate to be able to work with Roger, work with Ron Dennis, work with Bernie Ecclestone. I know you're good buddies with Bernie. These guys are the legends of the
also,
sport.
people don't really exist like that anymore, do
No,
they?
it's a different ballgame.
And I suppose
now.
the world has changed, so they can't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Jesus, like if you imagined, they'd have to adapt
the drivers, the owner, like all the stuff that happened in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even into the 2000s, but then it's a different world now.
I mean, even fuel, I suppose, back in qualifying, nobody would know exactly how much fuel somebody else ran with.
No, now it's all data everywhere.
And you mentioned Eddie Cheever earlier. He was quite a quick guy, wasn't he?
He was quick, and my first ever race was the 1981 Long Beach Grand Prix.
Yeah.
So I've always collected stuff. I still have the program with the starting grid. So we got it on the Sunday. Half the drivers died. I mean, you look at it, it's Villeneuve, Ferrari.
Unbelievable.
And Eddie Cheever signed it. And I remember like it was yesterday. I was 10 years old. I think he finished 5th in the race because he was American. He was, big deal. He was very fast.
We had his 288 GTO last year.
Did you?
I never knew he had one, and he had it new from Ferrari.
He was very close with the Ferrari family.
Lived in Monaco and drove it from the factory to Monaco. You've got a GTO?
I love 280. That looks mint. I love 280. I think this is such an awesome car. And it's just going to keep going north, isn't it?
Yeah, they only built 272 of them. For me, I've got an F40 and a 288 GTO.
Is this what you're going to take on the tour?
I'm going to take...
Or are you going 275?
I'm going to take... I haven't decided yet. I think I'll take the GTO.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, everybody seems to want to bring their GTO. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I don't know whether I'm going to have to balance it out and say,
I'm bringing
to
mine.
Poulter, you've got to bring
Poulter
your
bringing?
Poulter wanted to bring his GTO.
Okay.
So maybe I might have to say to Poulter, you've got to bring the 275 and I'll bring one. But they're such good cars.
Awesome car.
I've got an F40, and I'm actually I'm never that excited about driving the F40. But these cars, I think it's maybe because they feel a bit more...
They just look cool.
Yeah. And also...
And you need to know what they are.
Yeah,
Because if you see a 308 or a 328 and you don't know Ferraris,
Yeah.
but people that know 288s, this is to me is kind of the giveaway.
Yeah. And the high mirrors.
Yeah.
And also, do you know what? People, yes, they resemble a 308 or 328, but when they're actually completely different cars, completely different body.
Yeah.
The bulbous rear arches, the big
Is it
wings.
the same thing as an F40 engine?
Basically.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, basically V8 twin turbo. Pura Sangre. Have you seen the new Ferrari SUV?
No.
I think that's a good looking car.
That is a good looking car.
It's
First time I've seen it.
Disgustingly expensive.
Yeah. What do they run?
That car cost me about 440,000, which is a crazy amount of money for an SUV. But you can sell them bumper to bumper from here all the way back to Woking. Yeah, like it's unbelievable.
What year did these start?
Last year.
Last year. So it's a
2023.
Okay.
And they fetch huge premiums.
How much are they? How many are they going to make?
Well, I think they'll be low production, but it's not a limited edition.
Yeah.
But Ferrari are very good. They never saturate the market.
No.
They just build enough cars.
They'll sell one less than there's demand for.
Like the old man's motto,
Yeah.
Yeah.
P1 I love. I think undervalued. New batteries coming. There's no reason why this shouldn't be on par with an Enzo.
I think we have just about missed the boat on the last of the really good value P1s because they were not much over £1 million.
Yeah.
And 3 cars have sold in the last 3 weeks. We've sold this one. We sold this one to a client in America. And I think you're going to see these cars get to £2 million
So do I.
very quickly.
So do I.
Like, I think the jump up will happen
pretty quick.
And I was thinking last week, I thought we should go and buy another one, like a nice spec car, either buy it for stock or buy it and just pack it away for a little bit.
Yeah.
But we just now can't find a good
one.
LaFerraris, as it happens, these cars are £3 million for a LaFerrari coupe.
Yep.
Less than half price for a McLaren P1.
Doesn't make sense.
And also to drive, it's
a great car to drive.
As a driver's car.
Yeah. It makes no sense because this is worth 3.
Yeah.
That should be worth pretty close too.
F40, this was Sterling Moss's new.
Nice.
Sterling Moss.
Now they had a US version and a Europe version.
US versions are terrible.
Are they? What was the difference? Was it exhaust emissions
It's just horrible. So you'd have bumpers on the front, so ugly bumpers on the front, ugly bumpers on the rear, different seats.
Yeah, so just for US.
It's just horrible.
Yeah.
They just absolutely bastardized such a special raw car.
Yeah.
And sorry to say it, but most people in your country pay more for US spec cars, and I don't get it. And with this car we sold today, actually. This is a non-cat, non-adjust. So people get hung up. Non-cat, non-adjust. That car is a cat adjust.
Yep.
I don't think it makes a difference. Like, my car that I keep is adjustable suspension. Some people say you should have it non-adjustable. DB4 Zagato. So only 19 of these cars ever built.
Gorgeous car.
This is the only one of the 19 cars that has
That's yours.
open headlamp. That's mine.
Plate gives it away.
Yeah. So that car was, do you know Marco Piccinini?
Yeah, of course.
So that was
car?
Enzo Ferrari
Yeah.
gifted it to him for his 1983 season in Formula One.
Wow.
But when I say gifted it, I think it was gifted more as rather than be remunerated with cash, maybe with the car. And he kept it, and I bought it from Marco. So it was one owner from new, and it's the prototype. It's the oldest 288 GTO in existence.
And now what's this?
That's the 288 Evo.
Evo. I've never seen that.
Well, there's only 5 ever built,
That's why I've never seen it.
and only 3 of them. One of them's in Brunei, and one of them is in.
So what? This looks like a combination of everything.
Well, it was to go Group B racing
Okay.
on the tarmac,
Yeah.
and then that got abolished before the car was finished.
Yeah.
But Ferrari decided to still build 5. They instantly sold. They went to all their best collectors. One went to Brunei, and the other one went to all their top collectors at the time. It's really the line between the 288 GTO and the F40.
F40. Yeah,
you can actually see
it.
that.
Yeah. Well,
You
it
can see
looks
the
like you got the
evolution.
GTO in the back. You got the F40 on the doors.
Unbelievably raw. So they made them with 2 different types of engine. 3 cars had the really powerful engine which this car's got, and then 2 cars had basically the standard GTO engine, and it's bloody quick.
Yeah.
It's raw, it's quick, it's I think it's a very special car, actually.
Yeah, I've never seen one.
So and your favorite car at the minute that you've got in the collection?
Let's discount my
Well, your
McLarens.
favorite 3
My
cars.
favorite 3 cars would be my 959.
That's with the caniper upgrades.
Yep, love the 959. Just a daily driver, rare,
Yeah.
like the 288. And it's one of those cars that if you don't know what it is, people just go, oh, it's kind of an older looking turbo. If you know what it is, you go, that's a 959. Probably my 288
Yeah.
GTO. And my Cobra,
You like the Cobra?
289 Cobra.
Yeah. That's a lot of fun though, isn't it?
It's a lot of fun. And I always wanted one as a kid, and they just sound, you fire it up, and it's just all
raw.
American.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those would be the 3.
I've got to say, when we speak a lot, but I don't know how you do it. You're always on the road. You're always in the on a plane. You're traveling from
cars.
And I don't know how you get time to drive any of the
I don't,
cars.
unfortunately. I mean, I drive them to the factory, which sometimes I get a few like, is that Zach in a Ferrari?
Can you park out in the visitors' parking?
But we have a
please?
rule. If it's any car pre-95,
You can come in.
because that's when the McLaren F1, I can come in. So I just can't drive anything post-95. That's the competition.
So they don't mind pre-95.
Yeah.
This is a,
This is
you know this car.
unbelievable.
So this is the car that Lewis,
Unbelievable.
this is the car that Lewis won his first 2 races in, including the last ever race at Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So he won Canada, the race at Indianapolis, and then also Fernando jumped in it and he won.
This is as good as it gets.
Don't you think that
The aero's insane.
the aero,
The aero is insane.
and when you look at the later cars, like say the 27 that we were just talking
Yeah.
about, it's
It doesn't have any of this.
none of it.
This has so much. This is the peak of aero.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. Looks dangerous.
And I think I have to say McLaren under Ron at the time as well though, like their cars were always so beautiful, wasn't it?
His design, his eye for design, there isn't any better. Just the
If you look at the flame
Yeah.
that comes through and
awesome.
and it comes right to the exhaust tailpipes
today. You know what the problem with this would be? Weight.
of the paint.
Yeah, because now all the cars are carbon fiber. It's because we're all trying to get weight down. This would have been fine in period because of the regulations. Today, if we tried to do this, it was funny. I had a call from Mercedes, one of the, because this was like our patent or trademark, and they wanted permission to use it. And I went to my guys, so like, let them use it because it's heavy.
Yeah.
But this car's, and the sound is amazing.
How much more will it weigh then for paint? How much do you save these days with the racket?
I mean, the amount of weight, we're trying to save a kilo or less than a kilo. I mean, it's, and you're never gonna find it in.
What does that calculate to though? Like a kilo, for example?
10 kilos would be about 3/10.
10 kilos would be 3/10.
Yeah, so, and you're not gonna find it in taking this off. You're gonna find it by the small, so you sit there and they'll come to me and they go, we need to take some vinyl off. And it's like, well, how much does that weigh? And it's like, that's like, weighs nothing. It's like, yeah, but we're
If you
Formula
add it
One.
up all the way
If you
over.
do it everywhere, and that's what Formula One is, it's all about even the development we bring. We talk about milliseconds, and it's like, how do you even like measure that? And it's amazing, the attention to detail and the smallest incremental gains we're trying to make on weight, on performance, on downforce, taking drag out. But that's why the grid's so close now.
And do you enjoy from being? I mean, you've always been a great operator, so you was great with all bringing all the sponsorship into F1. And do you enjoy your time now more with McLaren? Have you
Definitely
adapted?
Because it's everything. So I get the commercial side, which I have always loved, will always love. I get the racing side, and I like the technical side. I don't have any contributions to make to the technical, but I understand it. I can tell a good technical person from a bad technical person, but I can't do their job. But you can get a sense for when someone's talking, how confident they are. Did it happen as they said it would? So you can start to go, I can't figure out what you're doing, but I can figure out you're good at it or not.
I
like it.
I know the team you've got at the minute is incredible, but how you've turned it around. I mean, now these days, everyone
doing
fancies
awesome.
McLaren to win, and I forgot what that feeling was like.
Me too. I'm still feet on the ground. Took a long time to get back to where we are, but we got to stay on it.
And when we win the championship, that's when it's going to be a big
That'll be
celebration.
unbelievable.
What, 600 pull?
This thing's cool.
So
It's not very fast.
This is what you call provenance. First owner, John Lennon.
Wow.
Second owner, George Harrison.
Wow.
Third owner, the Supremes.
That's got some history.
Can you imagine what's been happening in the back of there? It's this is spectacular, and also
How long have you had this?
a few months, and also in Mercedes-Benz in a lot of their factory.
This would be cool
literature.
to drive around in and have someone drive you around
In London.
Yeah, totally.
I think even for a young guy, if he was being driven
you'd be
around,
so cool.
if you was going to have a Rolls Royce, whatever they are, Phantom or a Cullinan or something
No, this
today,
is the car to have.
or this.
Yeah. What's something like that cost?
This is £1.5 million.
Yeah. There's just all the history is amazing, isn't it?
But so the restoration on this car was done by the factory.
Yeah.
You couldn't restore this car at the factory.
It looks mint. I mean,
Yeah,
look at the
open it
door.
up.
I mean, it just.
But you couldn't restore this car for 500,000 at the factory. You couldn't restore it for that. It'd be
Amazing.
750,000.
That thing is awesome.
And we've got all photos and videos of John Lennon and Yoko Ono in the car.
This is awesome.
And, you know, and then to think after he used it, and by the way, properly used it, he didn't sell it after 6 months with 500 miles. Yeah. He used it.
Yeah.
And then he sold it to George Harrison, who used it. And then Mary Wilson from the Supremes bought it and exported it to America. There's photos of her laid on the bonnet of the car in her biography.
It's amazing.
And then it went back to the factory and was totally restored.
What a cool car. What year is that?
1970.
1970.
These cars, when they came out in 1963, this for me was the pinnacle of Mercedes-Benz. Like the build quality of it, with what it was competing against, there was nothing like it.
What a cool car.
So that's our showroom tour.
Cool tour.
And thank you for coming up today.
Oh, my pleasure. This is great.
What's your favorite? If you could go away with one car?
Nicky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes me think of the one I had, but that one's even better.
And road car?
Ooh. Well, I've got a 288 GTO. Fantasize about a GTO, but that's a bit out
The problem is you've got most of the cars in here, so it's hard
I've got some.
I've got some. I've got F40, I've got
If I had to steal
GTO,
one, it'd be the
got
288 GTO. Not the
250,
the 250, I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a bad car to steal.
No, that'd be a good car to steal. I bet you have it insured, though.
Congratulations on your Le Mans win.
Thank you. That was a good one.
It was very good, and congratulations on how you've turned McLaren around.
Thank you. We'll keep pushing.
I'm super grateful that you've never decided to go into the car business, because I could do without a competitor like you. And
that's why I get invited to your tours.
Exactly.
That's good. I keep coming.
You can come as many as you want.
Awesome.
Good to see you. Yeah.
Cheers.